Welcome to Wine by the Case.
We uncork legal insights one bottle at a time.
I really like that color on you.
I love this color on me. It's got some sparkle to it, too.
All right, so we are going to start with the wine because it actually is the legal topic we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, so this one, it's got a beautiful label. I mean, it's got the raised on it. It's called ex post facto.
And what does that mean in Latin?
That basically means after the fact. So what it means is when you've got a situation where things have happened, this is the not before the fact, but after the fact. So we thought this would be a really good one to be able to try because this is one of my favorite areas in California, the Santa Rita Hills, and it is a Syrah with a little bit of a blend. So this one should have maybe just a little bit spicy and a little bit fruity, but it should be just a nice one. Ooh, look at that color. Nice ruby red, as it should be for Syrah. All right, so again, like the ruby red color, I'm also liking the fact that it's got a clean scent to it. It doesn't have that, sometimes that too tanniny, too smoky. But I'm those are tannins. That's a tannin face.
Okay, that is sharp. Kind of like...
It's vinegary.
Kind of like
vegan wine.
Bitter and sharp, kind of like when you apply this legal doctrine and usually it can appear in different fashions, but a lot of times it is that you are retroactively applying a law or rule. So you'll see this a lot with clawback type actions.
And what's a clawback?
Well, it's when somebody has... And this comes about in many different forms, but today we're going to talk about clawback actions. So the one that you may hear about is, let's say that, let's take a health benefit, and your insurance company pays out money on a claim, for instance, or you're a healthcare provider and you submit to have a bill paid for one of your patients. And then all of a sudden, the insurance company, for instance, will start a clawback action where they're saying, we did not pay that appropriately and you have to pay it back. And I handle a lot of these claims. And the problem is, first of all, you generally still don't have that money because you paid overhead. But recently, as you're aware, and you said when we were talking about this, your grandmother... Mm-hmm. Your husband's grandmother, who is how old? God bless her.
97.
97. Was concerned about this too, because recently in the media, it has come back that Social Security has paid, now we're talking retired people, has paid out over years, has paid out money for Social Security, that those individuals 9 times out of 10, probably 9.5 times out of 10, do not still have that money because they lived on that money. Yeah. And Social Security is coming back and going, my bad, we miscalculated your Social Security. And for the last umpteen years, and now you owe us and have to pay back all that money that we overpaid you by mistake, which was our fault.
Right, which was our fault. So you think about 97 years old. So let's just say she retired at 67. 97. I mean, think of how many years this is.
Well, there are some statute of limitations on it, but yeah.
But again, so she's looking at it and going, how many years did you overpay me? And how am I going to ever get money back to be able to pay you? Because, when you're 97, you kind of outlived your savings to a certain extent. So... it's terrifying.
Or even if they set off a certain percentage, you're already living on a fixed income a lot of time that you can have that reduced and be able to survive. So even doing that, opposed to making you pay it in a lump sum, which is an impossibility, a lot of times it's also an impossibility. And this has... I believe 60 Minutes and is 60 Minutes still on? But the other shows of that nature have picked up about this because this has created a huge hardship for many of our seniors, especially now with the economy where things are so much more expensive. And so a lot of times, and with the Social Security situation, they didn't really have, because the way Social Security is calculated is like this algorithm.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if Einstein could figure it out at this point on how it's calculated. So it's not like they would have been on notice. It's not like they submitted anything inappropriate. Whereas, with the healthcare insurance scenario, a lot of times they'll say, well, we weren't aware of it because this information wasn't provided. So the Social Security is even more egregious.
Exactly. It's a whole different thing. Again, when you think 30 years on a fixed income, and now you're hearing the news and you're seeing, well, we're just going to deduct it. When you're like, I'm already barely able to make ends meet because of the fact that food's more expensive, gas is more expensive, and it's terrifying.
Well, it's the same thing that if you, for healthcare providers that bill Medicare, they'll do clawbacks as well. They'll say, oh, there was a clerical error, whatever, and they'll call back. And there could be years that they're not paying you for your providing services to patients to recoup the money that they said was inappropriately paid to you as well. So and it is a problem because a lot of times you have no way. And I think Social Security really nails it down because they have no way. I couldn't do that calculation for Social Security. There's no way they're on notice that they could have said, oh, it's off.
Right.
And here's the money back when it happened. It really is a surprise. They get this in. There's really not much of a defense for it. And
like you said, they made the mistake, had nothing to do with the person who was cashing the checks that the government issued to them.
Right.
They're like, what do you mean it's wrong? But I'm going to go back to the notion.
But wait, the government's saying it doesn't matter. You shouldn't have. Their position is you weren't entitled to the money.
Right.
You got the money. You need to return
Right.
the money is their position, which I do understand that position, but for the fact that it wasn't like there was any intent, and these people really do not. We're not talking about a millionaire where you're like, you know what, we accidentally deposited $100,000 into your bank account.
Right.
You should have been aware that there was $100,000 more,
and $67 more a month.
You should have repaid us. You should have put us on notice and refunded the money. They have no idea. Right. No. You're saying it could be over multiple years, 67, 100, or a couple $100 a month that we've overpaid you. They had no way.
Right. So they have no way. But let's go back to your example of what happens when the agency says to a provider, we have overpaid you. Is there any way the provider gets to dispute that?
So they could say that they were overpaid for various reasons. Sometimes they'll allege fraud. They'll say that your structure was wrong. They could say you used the wrong billing code. And if it's Medicare clawback sort of situation, there is a difference between, say, clerical errors and between fraud. Now, the problem is if it's fraud, there's hammers to that with trouble and damages and all this. It's not simply a repay back. The problem from, let's say it's commercial insurance with a healthcare provider, let's say Bill's Blue Cross, and they're alleging usually it's not just, they could say we overpaid you, you need to pay us back, and then they start taking it from other sources. But they could also claim that there's some sort of fraud. But what people need to understand, when they claim fraud, it could be anything. It's under the sun. It could literally be that, that we don't like your structure. It could be something that's not clear. There's a lot of lawsuits going on now that they're saying that the referrals for MRIs, and they're trying to claw back from the MRI money that they paid to the MRI when it was another doctor that referred them there, and they're not in the business of referring people for MRI. So a prescribing doctor would have referred them for the MRI.
Yeah.
So how would they have been on notice that there was some fraud going on with that referral? So, I mean, anybody can sue anybody for anything. So
$400, that's all it takes, people. $400.
Well, less than that if you want to go to small claims.
True.
But the point is, yes, there are various defenses. You can try and negotiate it. And in the Social Security situation, really the only defense that you would have is to try and negotiate something. But like you said, your 97-year-old grandmother, $50 a month can
Right.
mean whether they're going to eat,
Right.
whether they're going to pay for their medication,
Right.
whether the lights are going to
They're
stay
going to be able
on.
to buy laundry detergent.
Right.
I mean, all this sort of stuff.
It's $50 when you just think about it.
Right.
Yes, but if a lot of our seniors, unfortunately, are on such a fixed income,
Right.
that it has a huge impact.
Do you see any sort of defenses that could be made for people who are like, if you take this $75 per month from me, I can't afford my rent? Is there anything that could happen?
I think if there's enough backlash about this, it's
okay.
kind of like back in the foreclosure scenario, that if you have debt discharge, you are taxed for it. A lot of people may not know that, but let's say you have your credit card and you negotiate and you're defaulted on and you negotiate, and the differential that you negotiate down from what they're claiming is owed, you could be taxed on that debt forgiveness. So what came about when people's houses were being foreclosed, they're already in this horrible situation, and there were all these short sales, and they potentially could have been taxed on that short sale amount of the loan. Right. And there ended up having a law put in that there was a window that if that happened, you weren't going to have to pay taxes. And I think maybe if there's enough outcry about this, because it is horrible. This is really horrible, because there was no notice. There was no way, nothing.
And there's no intent. There's no mens rea. There's no, I wanted to defraud the government. Again.
Well, this isn't criminal. Remember,
I know,
it's not
but
a criminal.
Still, the intent of, I got an additional $47 a month. Most people are going to assume it's a cost of living increase or something. They're not going to say.
There's no notice. They don't have a way to know, like, if all of a sudden there's an extra $100,000 in your bank account. You need to go to the bank and say, why is there this extra $100,000? You kind of aren't put on notice. So I think maybe that will come out. There'll be some forgiveness for that. But that's not going to happen overnight, right? No. That's not going to happen overnight. So a lot of these people, unfortunately, probably they'll reduce it. They'll have this hardship and they'll pass. And, that's what's going to happen.
Again, that's a wait and see sort of moment, particularly with the government shutdown. But if you're a provider and you're being
are they even going to get their Social Security check with the shutdown?
Apparently November 1st, they're talking about stopping it.
Okay. So.
But let's hope. But the world of providers, again, when I look at what doctors do, and I look at the fact that hospitals get $80,000 for the room rental and doctors get $6,000 for the surgery, and then they've got an entity, a government agency, saying, "Oh no, you billed too much." What relief can they seek?
So there's two different things. If we're talking about government entitlement clawbacks opposed to like regular commercial insurance, they kind of track the same way. But with government entitlement, there's two things. It could be a clerical error that the physician made or the hospital, meaning they forgot to put a modifier. The modifier was wrong or something like that, which wouldn't have intent, which doesn't rise to the level of alleged fraud. So they're still responsible for paying it back.
That's also where they seek out legal counsel for that, right?
Yeah, you would seek out legal counsel because it's also how is it calculated. Right. So here's the thing. Usually if it's a clerical error, they're going to give you the exact ones, the exact incidents, the exact bills that it happened to, right? And they're going to say, okay, on these 5 bills, you had the wrong, it generally is bigger than this, but these 5 bills, just to make it simple, had this issue where you put the wrong modifier and you were overpaid. And so therefore you have to pay us back. It's 5 bills. If there's an allegation for a governmental entitlement with a clawback action that has a fraud allegation, meaning there was some sort of intent to defraud, they don't have to give you the specifics. They can do an example and say, okay, well, we reviewed these files, and out of these files, you had inappropriate billing on 85 of the files, and we're not even doing it by file. So in that case, you try to negotiate, say, no, let's go back to doing the exact file.
Like throwing a dart and going, we picked this one?
Pretty much. But it's the government. It's the government.
It's the government.
It's pretty much the government. So, but there are defenses that you can negotiate, and then even if it's going to be payout, trying to get how it's going to be paid back, those sort of things. And sometimes if there are fraud allegations, I've said to my client, listen, because if it rises to a certain level, they could turn it over. There could be criminal. We've all seen it, right?
Yes.
So you know,
And then you lose your life. You lose your licensure. I mean,
yeah,
that's
there's
called,
a lot
called
going
lawyer
on.
time.
And jail. You could go to jail.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes you even if you find it yourself, there's providers that'll say, okay, we did an audit, a billing audit, because under Medicare, because you bring that up, they are required. Yeah. They're required to have billing compliance plans and so forth and so on, and they find it on their own. They're supposed to self-report it and repay it. So you know that you do have a responsibility. That is different than Social Security, because I'm not seeing how. My problem with the Social Security one is they have, the way I'm looking at it, they have no ability to even know or be put on notice until they get that letter from Social Security. Yeah. Now, like I said, if all of a sudden their check goes, let's say, from $1,200 to $50,000 a month, then I would make the argument that you should have been put on notice that something wasn't right. But when you go from that all of a sudden goes up,
$1,287.
Yeah,
I mean,
something
you know,
like that.
Something nominal in the world of, okay, somebody would look at that and go, okay, as compared to, well, what happened here?
And it could be spouses.
Yeah.
So remember, it could be a dual spouse sort of situation. So I would definitely, if you are hit with that, I would consult with an attorney. Either one of those scenarios, I would consult with an attorney about that. And I do hope with the Social Security that the government does come in.
Oh God!
And I think they need to take some responsibility, because it really was a mess up with their algorithm.
They again, I think a 97-year-old grandmother. She didn't say I want the $87. It just happened. And again, we're just making up numbers here, but if it was anything that was high, I think most people would have said something's wrong here.
Well, see, so this is kind of similar, just an analogy with the Social Security is, like, if you have a credit card and somebody accidentally or fraudulently uses your credit card, a lot of credit cards will pretty much eat that. As long as they don't think it was something you did, obviously. They already have that incorporated in their profit and loss and all of that. And they will eat that because you didn't do anything wrong. And I think something similar needs to be put in with, but once again, a credit card company and the federal government are two entirely different things. So I am going to rate this, I want to say, a 0. But I think I'll give it a 1 because I didn't spit it out.
I'm going to give it a 1.5 only because I appreciate the fact that it's an interesting Syrah, but it's not my kind of Syrah.
Actually, yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1.5 because I do like the label. It is metal.
Yes.
And
it's Santa Maria Hills, which usually again has an interesting thing, but yeah, 1.5.
Sorry. Cheers.
Cheers.